Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. It's that time again, we need to update the tier list. If it's your first time with this tier list, the further up a champion is, the better they are, and the further right a champion is, the more often they can be that good. So champions in the top right are really good pretty much everywhere. Champions in the top left are really good, but only in a very few niche situations. For example, Ronan in the top left is phenomenal in matchups when he can stun cheese the opponent. They don't come around too often, but when they do, he is probably the best champion in the game. Hence, top left. Those in the bottom right are bad pretty much everywhere. We have had a little bit of a reshuffle since last time, particularly down in the bottom right, but I'm not going to go over every champion. Pretty much everyone that's in 7-2, 8-2, 7-1 and 8-1 have been shifted over a few points from the right, simply based on the fact that some of them have immunities and some of them don't, so we needed to split them out a little bit. By popular demand, this tier list also comes with a spreadsheet that is linked in the description, and thank you to W3SL for helping me out with this from the Discord server. That will give you all of the champions and a bit of extra information about a lot of them, some general notes, whether they need their SIG and that sort of thing, organised two different ways, both alphabetically and based on general ranking. So, let's dive into our champions. First up, we have Jack-o'-lantern, and he is coming in at 7-7. He is Incinerate and Reverse Control immune, which is very, very nice to have, and it can be told from this guy and how he works that he was specifically designed as a tech onslaught counter, and he does that very well. He can regenerate against onslaught when awakened, he's immune to onslaught's reverse controls, he can stop onslaught's neuroshocks applying through block, and so on, but he is still good in other places in the game. Just because he is focused on onslaught doesn't mean that he isn't good against other champions. He has some very strong damage over time on his special 2, as well as instant incinerate and plasmid that come from when he would crit, similar to how Guardian works with his shocks. 7-7. Scream is coming in at 6-8. She has some very high burst damage and lots of debuffs to go along with that, but she is lacking a little bit in the immunities department, hence down at 6 but up at 8. If you need some big bursty cosmics with loads of armor breaks and bleeds, she is very, very effective, and has a very interesting playstyle as well that utilises auto blocking as well if you really want to master her. She has some good buffs on herself as well, but a lack of immunities means we can't push her too much higher than a 7, and the fact that she relies on being able to place debuffs on the opponent means we drop her down to a 6 in terms of how often she can be used. She is very powerful, and you will see some very good numbers out of her, but you throw her into a matchup where she needs those immunities, and she just doesn't have them. 6-8, a very good champion. Spiral is coming in at 7-8. She not only has very, very good damage coming from both her specials and from the damage over time when it adds up, she is also a very good Serpent counter, who is one of the most dominant cosmic defenders at the moment. Someone that is just counters the current meta, is very, very effective, and will get pushed higher up this tier list. She is Falter immune as well, which is really nice, so she can counter that as well. This is not the same as being unable to miss, she's immune specifically to Falter. From her SIG, she can also gain triple resistances, which is really good, though it does take a few hits before those can really stack up, so if it's one of those debuffs that comes in right at the start of the fight, then she is not quite as good there. 7-8. And finally we have Dazzler, also coming in at 7-8, but with a high chance of going to 7-9. I just need to see her in action. She is still very new at the time of making this tier list, so I'm just sort of erring on the side of caution. She has some insane damage when she gets going, and it's not particularly difficult to get going with her. Special 1, Special 2 will deal some very, very good damage, easily enough to clear out a lot of battleground sized and even a bit more health pools. If you need even more burst, Special 3 to push it into her higher tempo, and they will do so well. Off their signature ability, she can also counter sort of incoming physical damage, so that will shut down champions like Korg, like Atuma, and so on. She is an excellent addition to the mutant class, and I really look forward to seeing what she can do in the future. 7-8 for now, possibly 7-9. We have a lot of promotions to get through in this video, mainly because we've had a lot of buffs since the last tier list update came out. Let's start off with Onslaught, who moved from 7-8 to 9-9. Onslaught, it was time for him to go up. He has been very, very dominant in the game in pretty much every aspect of it. He comes with built-in triple immunities, a very potent damage source that also gets around a lot of things. He's all damage over time, really, though his specials can still hit okay when you get him going. But all of that degen, the neuroshocks, they really add up. You can use him anywhere from short battlegrounds fight all the way to the necropolis. I don't, however, see him as a 10 in either category. The reason he is not a 10 often is simply because I don't see anyone use him in Alliance Quest. If there is some sort of map 8 path that Onslaught is absolutely dominant for, please do let me down below, but personally, I haven't seen it. He can be used in pretty much every other situation, though, as I've said, from Battlegrounds to the Necropolis. He's used in High Tier Alliance War, in story content he is also amazing, but he's not used in Alliance Quest. So he gets a 9 often. In terms of 9 good, this is one I have been debating quite heavily, and probably could be pushed to push him into that 10 out of 10 good. If you look at everybody else in the 10 out of 10 good category, they do something special. Ronan will lock down entire fights, a full ramped Aegon is just a force of nature, Magneto somehow manages to convert parry heavy into million+ level 3s, Awakened Archangel can shut down entirely fights with his ability accuracy, Doctor Doom can effectively, the Doom cycle is so potent at just locking down fights as well. Ghost, in my opinion, is still supremely busted, and the fact we haven't seen her as a 7-star, or even the glimpse of her as a 7-star, means that I'm pretty confident that she won't be coming out as a 7-star for a while. More indications to her power, and I don't need to comment on Hercules. Oh, we also have Quake. She's locked as a 5-star though, but is still so powerful in the right situation. Onslaught doesn't quite compete, in my opinion, with these champions, but he is still excellent, hence 9-9. Iceman has gone from 9-5 to 10-5, he's just had a bump, he deserves it with all of his immunities. Still a mid-champion, but there are very few fights you can't take Iceman into. Right, now onto some proper buffs. Black Panther Civil War has gone from 9-2 all the way up to 6-7. This guy has some serious burst damage once you get him going, and it isn't particularly difficult to get him going. He's very clearly designed around, again, that battleground sized health pool, so the sort of 250 to 450 range, depending on ranks and so on. If you're looking at that 7-star rank 3 Sasquatch, I think he's about 450, so it'll probably take you 2 special 2s to take him down. But again, a bit like Scream, he has excellent damage, excellent burst, decent utility, but no immunities. He can reflect stuns, which is quite nice, particularly on defense, but this is an offense-only tier list. But that lack of immunities means we can't push him much higher than a 6. Maybe a 7 in the future. We will see. Purgatory has gone from 8-4 up to 7-7. Her buff did an excellent job at just ironing out all of the annoying points in Purgatory's kit. What her souls do have been updated, and they're now much more potent. She can carry them throughout the entire rest of the quest, not just for the next 2 fights. The degen on her special 2 is now really powerful. She gains a big damage buff during her demonic rampage, which is much easier to hold up, and so on. She is a very strong character that likes to ramp up, but actually it isn't super required. Some ramp up champions won't be very good in their first fight. Purgatory is still good in her first fight. 7-7. Deadpool X-Force has gone from 8-3 up to 6-8. The burst damage he can now get is truly insane. There's a full video we did recently on the Deadpool X-Force buff, and he, in the right matchups, he just absolutely pops off. You build to 3 bars of power, you do a light ending combo, you special 2, they're passively stunned, you do special 1, and they take a burst of 300,000 damage, 250 to 300,000 at 7-star rank 3 level. It is that simple. The burst he does as well is also his Spleed debuffs, which isn't technically bleed debuffs, so it will bypass all immunities in the game. No champion in the game is immune to Spleed debuffs, even though they are passive, so he is a very, very powerful character. He, in my mind, is similar to Scream. Big burst damage, but lacking that utility. Scream has more utility than Deadpool, but Deadpool can get around all immunities, so they're sort of in the same box, but for different reasons. 6-8. Sentry has gone from 4-4, well, he probably shouldn't have been, but 4-4, all the way up to 4-9, and I know some people are going to disagree with me on this. Sentry, in my mind, is absolutely disgustingly powerful. Like Deadpool X-Force, we have a video on him out recently as well, but once you get Sentry ramped up, he is an absolute force of nature. You are tossing out, 200k plus heavy attacks on every heavy as long as they crit. You can get 80k mediums. The damage of this guy is just mental. His sustainability is also very high with his bulwarks and regeneration. He places so many debuffs on the opponent. He can completely shut down Sasquatch from the first hit of the fight. He can make Chavez into a potato. He is such a good character. And yes, you need to get him ramped, but he's a ramp up champion. That's what they do. Even after he's just on 3 charges, which you can get after the first fight, he is still very, very good. After 6 charges, he's an absolute monster. And at 8 and 10 charges, there's nothing standing in his way. He is an absolute force of nature when he gets going. And I'm so happy to see that Sentry is finally doing what Sentry should. Feel free to hate on me in the comments for this one, but do keep it civil. 4-9. Medusa has gone from 2-9 to 2-9. No movement on her, even though she has been buffed. The reason for this is Medusa is in 2-9 because she shuts down robots, and there are enough robots in the game to warrant her as a specialist in that department. Her ability to completely remove all their ability accuracy and all of their power gain is still there, but outside of those robot matchups, she has now got better. She used to be a sort of 5 or 6-ish, and she's now a sort of 6, 7... Yeah, somewhere in the 6 or 7 rank. But she's not actually going to move on this tier list because robots be robots. She is a phenomenal cosmic champion with access to armor break, armor shatter, loads of furies. She can also now get further, meaning her bleeds are more likely to trigger, as well as true accuracy, allowing her to bypass a whole lot of things. But yeah, a really, really good champion, but still at 2-9. Sentinel has moved from 5-5, where he probably shouldn't have been, to 9-6. We've also recently done a video on Sentinel where you can see him in action, but basically he's just an updated version of old Sentinel. Except, he ramps up faster, he does more damage, he's got some more modern utility built into him, and his ability to once per quest just completely reset his health pool is really, really nice. A full heal once per quest is very powerful. A nice update, 9-6. And finally for our promotions, Werewolf by Night has been moved from 7-7 to 7-8. He continues to do very, very well, and I have my eye on him as well, but he needed that little bump just to really reflect where he does well. In terms of Demotions, it is a sad day for Kitty Pryde players, but she has moved from 9-10 to 9-9. Now don't get me wrong, this puts her in the same box as Onslaught, and anyone should be honoured to be in the same box as Onslaught. Much like Ghost that I mentioned earlier, there has been not a word of Kitty as a 7-star, so I think that also helps reflect her power, but Kitty is still a phenomenal champion with the ability to bypass all sorts of annoyingness with her phasing, and a huge damage output, great damage over time, a really, really, really solid mutant, but I had to compare her to the rest of the 10s, and I think she deserved to drop down. Finally, for the movements, those that aren't being promoted or demoted, but just sort of moved diagonally usually. I still think of them as the same, but they just have to line up a bit more. There aren't any official ones here, but as I said right at the start of the video, I have rearranged sort of anyone in sort of 1, 2, and 3 good. So I'm not going to go through all of them. They're all pretty much the same relative to each other, but I just had to shift them left a bit. So that's, the Beast, the Cable, those boxes down there. No one else has moved this time around. A few champions I had my eye on. I've still got my eye on Bullseye. He might need to go up slightly. I also have my eye on Wong, potentially moving him further to the left, but up to a 9 as a long-form content specialist. He has been absolutely slapping the Necropolis recently, so might just keep an eye on him there as well. Finally, Chieelth, Luke Cage, and potentially Count Nefaria may also be getting promotions, but we will see for next time. So, there we have it. An update to our tier list. If you have any comments or questions, please do leave them down below, but do keep it civil. This is just my opinion, other people will have their own opinion, and you will have your opinion. Consider also joining the Discord server linked in the description, a great place to get specific advice, make suggestions for future video topics, and while I'm awake, I do my best to be there as much as possible. Thank you, and I will see you next time.